Dr. Alan Price stared at the screen, his eyes red from lack of sleep. The strange radiation pattern appeared again, pulsing in the same sequence as yesterday. This was the third night in a row. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate with Earth. Alan ran his hand through his messy brown hair and reached for his comm device. It was 3 a.m., but this couldn't wait until morning. He pressed the call button. "Commander Wright, it's Dr. Price. I need you to come to the lab right now." 30 minutes later, Commander Lucy Wright stood beside Alan, her military uniform looking surprisingly crisp despite the early hour. Her short blonde hair was perfectly in place as she leaned closer to the screen. "You're sure this isn't just background radiation?" she asked. "Positive," Alan said. "The pattern repeats exactly every 42 minutes. Nature doesn't work that way. Someone is sending this signal directly at our system." Lucy's face grew serious. After 103 years of silence, why now? The question hung in the air. Everyone on Earth knew the story of the Severance event. In 2054, all faster-than-light communication with the rest of the galaxy had suddenly gone dead. The relay stations orbiting Jupiter were destroyed by unknown forces. Earth was cut off, isolated, forgotten. Many believed it was a deliberate attack by the alien coalition known as the Galactic Concord. Others thought Earth had simply been abandoned when the mysterious entities called the Hollow Ones attacked the system. "We need to tell the Council," Lucy said finally. "They'll just want to ignore it like they always do," Alan replied. "Gregory Phillips will say it's too dangerous to respond." Lucy shook her head. "Not this time. We've been building our defenses for a century. We're not the same helpless planet we once were." Later that day, Alan and Lucy stood before the Earth Defense Council. The large meeting room felt cold and formal. The 12 council members sat at a long table, their faces showing various degrees of concern. Gregory Phillips, the head councilman, frowned deeply as Alan finished explaining his discovery. "Dr. Price, you're asking us to respond to an unknown signal after a century of hard-won independence." Gregory's voice was sharp. "Have you forgotten what happened to the Jupiter station and its 50,000 people?" "With respect, sir," Alan replied, "we can't hide forever." Lucy stepped forward. "Council members, Earth has grown stronger in isolation. Our technology has developed along different paths than the Concords. We have better ships, better weapons, and better shields than we could have imagined a century ago. And you want to show all that to whoever abandoned us?" Gregory asked. "I want to show them that humanity survived and thrived," Lucy said firmly. "That we're not so easily forgotten." The debate lasted for hours. In the end, they voted 7-5 to allow Alan's team to reactivate one of the old communication relays, not to respond immediately, but to listen more clearly. 1 week later, Alan, Lucy, and a team of engineers worked in spacesuits around the rusty frame of Relay Station Alpha. The station had been dormant since the Severance, floating uselessly in Earth orbit. "Power cells connected," said one of the engineers through the comm system. "Ready when you are, Dr. Price." Alan took a deep breath. "Activate primary systems." Lights flickered on across the station's surface. Old machinery hummed to life. "Signal strength increasing," Alan said, watching the readings on his suit's display. "We're picking up a clear transmission now." "What does it say?" Lucy asked, floating closer. Alan worked quickly to run the signal through the translation matrix. When the words appeared on his screen, he went completely still. "Alan," Lucy prompted. "What is it?" "It's in standard Concord language," he said quietly. "They're saying, 'Human survivors detected, responding to emissions from Sol system. Please confirm existence.' Repeat, please confirm human survivors." Lucy stared at the message. "They thought we were dead. They left us for dead," Alan corrected. "There's a difference." Lucy looked out at the stars, then back at the message. "Should we answer?" Alan smiled slightly. I think it's time the universe remembers we exist. The news spread quickly across Earth. After a century of isolation, contact with the wider galaxy had been reestablished. People gathered in homes and public squares to watch as Ambassador Kara Martinez prepared to send humanity's official response. Kara stood tall in her formal blue uniform, her dark hair pulled back neatly. The weight of representing all of humanity rested on her shoulders. As the most experienced diplomat from Earth's contact preparation team, she had trained for this moment her entire career, though no one truly believed it would come. "Are you ready, Ambassador?" asked Dr. Nathan Cole, the xenolinguist who had updated the translation systems. "As ready as anyone can be," Kara replied, trying to hide her nervousness. "Let's make history." In orbit above them, Chief William Harris watched from the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Defiant. 6 other warships floated nearby, all products of humanity's century of independent development. "Keep all weapons systems in standby mode," William ordered his crew, "but be ready to raise shields at my command." The chief was a cautious man with good reason. The last time Earth had contact with aliens, it ended with destruction and isolation. His weathered face showed the strain of responsibility. Back at the communication center, Kara crafted a careful message. "This is Ambassador Kara Martinez of Earth. We confirm human survival and continued civilization. The people of Earth request information about the events of the Severance and current galactic situation." Dr. Cole sent the transmission through the reactivated relay. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then the reply came. "Human Ambassador, this is Salvor of the Galactic Concord. Your survival is unexpected. Our records indicate complete loss of human presence following Hollow One incursion. Request permission to send diplomatic vessel to Sol System outer boundary for formal contact." Kara looked at Dr. Cole with wide eyes. They really did think we were all dead. In the emergency council meeting that followed, voices rose in heated debate. "This could be a trick," Gregory Phillips argued. "They abandoned us once. Why trust them now?" Lucy Wright shook her head. "We've spent a century wondering what happened. This is our chance to find out." Alan Price studied the data from the incoming transmissions. "Their technology signatures match what we have in the old records, but our scans suggest their ships haven't advanced much in 100 years. While ours have," William Harris added from the video screen. "Our current defense fleet could easily match anything the records show the Concorde had." After hours of discussion, the Council voted to allow a meeting, but only at Pluto's orbit, far from Earth. They would send their newest ship to show humanity's strength. 2 weeks later, Kara found herself aboard the Defiant, heading to the meeting point. William Harris stood beside her on the bridge, watching as the alien ship emerged from faster-than-light travel. "It's smaller than I expected," Kara said. William nodded, "and our scans confirm their shield technology is at least 30 years behind ours." The alien ship hailed them, and soon the face of Salvor appeared on screen. The alien had blue-gray skin and large eyes that widened visibly at the sight of humans. "Ambassador Martinez, I am honored to reestablish contact with humanity," Salvor said. "The Concorde mourned your species' loss for many years. Yet you never came back to check," Kara replied evenly. Salvor's expression changed to what might have been shame. "The Hollow One's attack on your system was devastating. The Concorde Council determined that return was too dangerous. For you, perhaps," William said, "but we survived. We rebuilt. We advanced." Kara gave him a warning glance before continuing. "We have many questions, Representative Salvor, starting with what exactly happened during the Severance event." Salvor seemed to hesitate. "Perhaps we should meet in person to discuss such complicated matters." William exchanged looks with Catherine Boyd, the intelligence officer standing quietly in the corner. She gave a subtle nod. "We agree to a face-to-face meeting," Kara said finally. "Be aware that Earth is no longer the same world you abandoned a century ago. We come to this reunion as equals, not as victims. The neutral meeting station floated silently at the edge of the Sol system. It was an old Concorde design, hastily assembled for this historic reunion. Lieutenant Ryan Parker guided the human shuttle toward the docking bay with careful precision. Approaching final docking position, Ryan said, his hand steady on the controls. He was one of Earth's best pilots, chosen specifically for this mission. Inside the shuttle, Ambassador Kara Martinez reviewed her notes one last time. Beside her, Catherine Boyd pretended to be a junior diplomat, but her real job was intelligence gathering. Her sharp eyes missed nothing. "Remember," Kara said to the small human delegation, "we show strength but not aggression. We want answers, not a new conflict." The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. As the airlock cycled, Kara straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. The alien delegation waited on the other side. Zalvor stood at the front, tall and slender with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer slightly under the lights. 4 other aliens of various species stood behind him. "Ambassador Martinez," Zalvor said with a slight bow, "welcome. I speak for the Galactic Concorde in this historic reunion." Kara nodded formally. "We appreciate the opportunity to reestablish contact, Representative Galvor." They moved to a large meeting room with a round table. The design was meant to show equality, but Catherine noticed the alien seats were slightly higher than the human ones. She caught Kara's eye and tapped her chair subtly. Kara understood immediately. "Before we begin," Kara said, "I notice our seating arrangements are uneven. In human diplomacy, this suggests a power imbalance." Zalvor's large eyes blinked rapidly. "An oversight. We will correct it immediately." Once properly seated as equals, the meeting began. Zalvor activated a holographic display showing the Sol system as it appeared 103 years ago. "The attack came without warning," he explained. "The Hollow Ones targeted your communication relays first, then the outer colonies. The Concorde fleet attempted intervention but suffered heavy losses. And then you left us to die," Catherine said quietly. Zalvor's skin darkened slightly. "The Concorde Council voted to establish a quarantine zone. The Hollow Ones seemed focused on your system specifically. Remaining would have risked drawing their attention to other inhabited worlds." "How convenient," Ryan muttered from his position by the door. Kara kept her face neutral. "What exactly are these Hollow Ones?" "Our records from before the severance contain little information." "An ancient machine intelligence," Zalvor said. "They appear rarely but cause devastating damage. They seem to target species reaching certain technological thresholds." Catherine's mind raced. If that was true, why hadn't they finished the job? Why leave any humans alive? "We have encountered similar machine entities," Kara said carefully. "Small scout ships entering our system. We destroy them." The alien delegation exchanged alarmed looks. "You destroyed Hollow One scouts?" one of the other aliens asked, speaking for the first time. "Several," Kara confirmed. "Our defense systems have evolved significantly since the severance." Zalvor leaned forward. "This is unexpected. Most civilizations fall completely once targeted." Catherine watched the aliens closely. Their surprise seemed genuine, but something felt wrong. She accessed the shuttle systems through her hidden wrist device, downloading the station's communication logs while everyone was distracted. "Perhaps," Kara said, "you could explain why no one ever returned to check if any humans survived." "The quarantine was absolute," Zalvor replied. "Breaking it might have renewed the Hollow One's interest." "Yet here you are now," Ryan pointed out. "Your signal reached us through old channels." The council debated extensively before approving this mission. As the meeting continued, Catherine's device vibrated quietly. The download was complete. She glanced at the data and froze. According to the logs, the Concorde had received signals from Earth at least twice before in the past century. They had deliberately ignored them. She caught Kara's eye and gave a tiny head shake. Something was very wrong with the Concorde story. Admiral Eliza Donahue stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Defender, watching the stars. Her gray eyes reflected the light of the display, showing the Concorde diplomatic station, where Ambassador Martinez was meeting with the aliens. 6 more warships under her command formed a protective circle at a safe distance. "Any updates from the meeting?" she asked her communications officer. "Nothing yet, Admiral. The shuttle maintains regular check-ins, but Ambassador Martinez is still in discussions." Eliza nodded. She didn't trust the Concorde, not after what happened during the severance. She had been just a child when the attack happened, but she remembered the fear, the confusion, and the anger that followed. Back on Earth, Jack Summers walked through the memorial garden dedicated to those lost in the Jupiter colony. His grandparents and uncle had been among the 50,000 who died when the relay station was destroyed. He came here often, finding peace among the stone monuments and flowering trees. Today was different. The news of alien contact had stirred up old feelings. Jack had spent years researching the severance, collecting stories from survivors, and piecing together what really happened. Not the official version, the truth. His comm device buzzed. It was a message from Dr. Alan Price. "Found something in the old archives. Come to the lab immediately." 30 minutes later, Jack stood in Alan's lab, staring at ancient footage recovered from a damaged satellite. "This was orbiting Jupiter during the attack," Alan explained. "The data was corrupted, but I've managed to restore parts of it." The grainy footage showed the massive relay station exploding. But before the explosion, a small ship could be seen departing from the station. A human ship. "Someone left right before the attack," Jack whispered. Alan nodded grimly. "And look at this." He pointed to another section of the footage showing strange energy readings. "These signatures don't match known Hollow One weapons. They match Concorde military technology from that era." Jack's hands tightened into fists. "They did this. The Concorde attacked us, not these Hollow Ones." "We don't have all the facts yet," Alan cautioned. "But I sent this to Admiral Donahue and Commander Wright." At the diplomatic station, Catherine Boyd slipped away from the main meeting to explore. Using her intelligence training, she avoided the station's security systems and accessed a restricted terminal. What she found confirmed her suspicions. The Concorde had been monitoring Earth for decades. They knew humans had survived and were advancing technologically. There were even threat assessments discussing potential human expansion beyond Sol. Catherine downloaded everything she could onto her secure device. As she worked, she heard voices approaching. She quickly closed the terminal and hid in a maintenance alcove. 2 aliens walked by, speaking in what they thought was a private conversation. "The humans claim to have destroyed Hollow One scouts," one said. "Is that even possible?" "Their ships show evidence of advanced weapon systems," the second replied. "The Council will not be pleased. The quarantine was supposed to contain them until their civilization collapsed." Catherine's blood ran cold. The quarantine wasn't for protection, it was imprisonment. Back in the meeting room, Ambassador Martinez was showing War images of Earth's current cities and technology. The alien's expression was difficult to read, but his colleagues seemed increasingly uncomfortable. "Your development has been remarkable," Zalvor said carefully. "Most isolated worlds regress technologically. Humans adapt," Kara said simply. "It's what we do best." Just then, an alarm sounded throughout the station. A voice spoke in the Concorde language, then switched to English. "Alert. Unidentified vessels detected. Hollow One signature confirmed. Multiple attack craft approaching." Zalvor's skin paled dramatically. "This is impossible. They haven't been active in this sector for decades." Lieutenant Ryan Parker was already moving toward Kara. "Ambassador, we need to return to our shuttle immediately." As they hurried through the corridors, Catherine rejoined them, giving Kara a significant look that said they needed to talk privately. Outside the station, Admiral Donahue was already moving her ships into defense formation. After a century of preparation, humanity was about to face the enemy that had nearly destroyed them, with the Concorde watching. The Hollow One ships moved with frightening speed toward the diplomatic station. Their dark hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it, making them appear like moving holes in space. Admiral Eliza Donahue counted 12 attack vessels in total. "All ships, defensive formation Delta," she ordered calmly. "Prepare main weapons but hold fire until my command." On the station, chaos erupted as the Concorde aliens rushed to evacuate. Ambassador Kara Martinez and her team moved quickly toward their shuttle, but Lieutenant Ryan Parker stopped suddenly, pointing to a viewing window. "Look," he said. Outside, the Earth ships were moving into position, their formation precise and practiced. The Concorde evacuation ships scattered in all directions without coordination. "They have no battle plan," Catherine Boyd observed. "They're panicking." Zalvor appeared beside them, his blue-gray skin now pale with fear. "You must leave immediately. The Hollow Ones will destroy this station." "What about your people?" Kara asked. "Our evacuation pods are launching now," he replied. "But you don't understand the danger. The Hollow Ones are unstoppable." Ryan laughed shortly. "Watch and learn." In the lead ship, Admiral Donahue activated the fleet-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Donahue to all Earth vessels. Implement Hydra Protocol." The Earth ships suddenly cut their main engines and drifted, appearing powerless. The Hollow One ships adjusted course, focusing on what seemed to be easy targets. "What are they doing?" Zalvor whispered in horror. "They're going to be destroyed." Catherine smiled slightly. "Just wait." As the first Hollow One ship came within range, the Earth vessels suddenly lit up with energy. Not from their main weapons, but from dozens of small ports across their hulls. Brilliant blue beams lanced out, connecting Earth ships to each other in a complex web of energy. "Linked shield system engage," reported Eliza's tactical officer. "Network at full power." The first Hollow One fired, its beam striking the energy web between two Earth ships. Instead of breaking through, the energy was absorbed and redirected through the network. "Return fire," ordered Eliza. All 6 Earth ships fired simultaneously, their weapons perfectly synchronized. The combined energy blast tore through the lead Hollow One ship, reducing it to fragments. On Earth, Governor Miriam Taylor watched the battle from the command center. Beside her, Dr. Benjamin Walsh monitored his experimental weapon systems. "The linked shields are working perfectly," he reported. "The Hollow Ones can't adapt to the network defense." Miriam nodded. "And the quantum disruptors?" "Ready to deploy on the Admiral's command." Back at the battle, the Hollow One ships regrouped and attacked together, targeting a single point in the Earth formation. It was a tactic that would have overwhelmed traditional shields. "They're using their old playbook," Eliza said with a grim smile. "Activate quantum disruptors." Small drones launched from each Earth ship, moving to surround the attacking Hollow Ones. The drones began emitting pulses that weren't visible but showed clearly on the tactical displays. The effect was immediate. The Hollow One ships slowed, their movements becoming erratic. In their shuttle, now safely away from the station, Kara and her team watched the battle through the view screen. Zalvor stared in disbelief. "What are those devices?" he asked. "Quantum field disruptors," Catherine replied. "They interfere with the Hollow One's coordination network." "But how?" Zalvor began. "We've had a century to study the few Hollow One scouts that entered our system," Ryan explained. "We learned how they think, how they communicate, and most importantly, how to disrupt them." The battle continued for only 10 more minutes. When it ended, 9 Hollow One ships were destroyed. The remaining 3 retreated, vanishing into faster-than-light travel. As the Earth fleet regrouped, a new signal appeared on their scanners. A Concorde military fleet had finally arrived, much larger than the Earth forces, but too late to help. Admiral Donahue opened a channel to the Concorde flagship. "This is Admiral Eliza Donahue of Earth. The threat has been neutralized. Your assistance, while appreciated, is no longer required." The silence that followed spoke volumes. News of the battle spread quickly through Concord space. Humans, a species thought extinct for over a century, had defeated a Hollow One attack force using technology the Concord didn't possess. The political shockwaves were immediate and far-reaching. Director Daniel Rodriguez walked through the halls of Earth Intelligence Headquarters, a tall building hidden beneath the surface of the Appalachian Mountains. Screens on the walls showed Concord news broadcasts, all focused on the recent battle and the miraculous return of humanity. "They're spinning it already," Daniel remarked to his assistant, "making it sound like they always hoped we survived." In his office, he found Senator Laura Bennett waiting for him. The tall, dark-skinned woman wore a formal suit and a determined expression. "Have you seen the latest Concord diplomatic message?" Laura asked without preamble. Daniel nodded. "They're inviting us to send representatives to their central worlds. Quite a change from keeping us quarantined." "They fear us now," Laura said. "That changes everything." Daniel activated a secure holographic display showing information Catherine Boyd had recovered from the diplomatic station. According to this, the Concord has been making defense pacts with over 20 species in the past decade, all focused on the Hollow One threat, which they clearly can't handle themselves, Laura observed. Now they want our help. "The question is, do we give it?" Daniel asked. Before Laura could answer, his communication device chimed. "Director, you're needed in the analysis center immediately. We've decoded more of the Concord data." Minutes later, Daniel and Laura stood in a room filled with analysts and screens. Dr. Alan Price was there, looking troubled. "We found evidence of a faction within the Concord government that specifically wanted Earth isolated," Alan explained. "They called themselves the Watchers, and they've been monitoring our progress since the severance." "But why?" Laura asked. A young analyst stepped forward. "According to these reports, they believe humans were dangerously innovative and evolutionarily unpredictable. They fear our potential if we join the wider galactic community." Daniel's expression hardened. "So they used the Hollow One attack as an excuse to cut us off?" "Not exactly," Alan said. "The Hollow Ones did attack, but this faction made sure no help came. They wanted to see if we'd survive on our own." "An experiment," Laura said bitterly. "That we passed," Daniel reminded her. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Admiral Donahue. Her face appeared on the main screen, looking serious. "Director, Senator, we've received distress calls from 3 Concord colonies under attack by Hollow One forces, much larger forces than what we faced. Are we responding?" Daniel asked. "The Defense Council is meeting now to decide," Eliza replied. "But I wanted you to know something first. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity at the edge of our system. We think the Hollow Ones have been building up forces there for some time." Laura and Daniel exchanged alarmed looks. "You think the attack on the diplomatic station was a test?" Laura asked. "I think they've been testing our defenses for years with those scout ships," Eliza said. "But now they know we can destroy them. That changes their strategy." On the Concord Central World, Grand Admiral Zex Tool stared at the battle reports with growing concern. The tall, reptilian alien had commanded Concord forces for 20 years, but had never seen Hollow One attacks this coordinated before. "They're adapting," he said to his advisors, "and they're targeting our most vulnerable worlds." An aide approached cautiously. "Admiral, we've received a transmission from Earth. They're offering military assistance." Zextol's scales shifted color in surprise. "After we abandoned them, why would they help?" "Their message says, the Hollow Ones are a threat to all sentient life. Earth stands ready to defend that principle, even for those who once forgot us." The Grand Admiral was silent for a long moment. "Send my personal thanks. Tell them we would be honored to fight alongside human forces." As Earth ships prepared to join the Concord defense, Jack Summers sat in Dr. Price's lab, studying the ancient footage from the Jupiter attack. Something still bothered him about it. He zoomed in on the human ship leaving the station before the explosion. "Computer, enhance this section and identify the ship model," he requested. The computer worked for several seconds before displaying a result that made Jack's blood run cold. Ship identification. Concorde diplomatic vessel registered to Earth Ambassador Robert Wells, 2054. President Frank Morgan stood before the Concorde assembly, his voice steady and clear. Representatives from over 200 alien species watched from their seats in the massive chamber. This was the first time a human leader had addressed the full assembly in over a century. For 103 years, Earth stood alone. Frank began. Forgotten by the universe. We turned inward. We adapted. We grew stronger. Now we stand before you not as victims seeking help, but as equals offering alliance. The chamber was silent. Many delegates still couldn't believe humans had not only survived but thrived in isolation. In orbit above the Concorde capital world, Earth and Concorde ships prepared for the coming battle. The largest Hollow One fleet ever detected was approaching, over 200 ships strong. Admiral Eliza Donahue coordinated with Grand Admiral Zex Toll from the bridge of the Defender. Despite their past differences, they worked well together. "Your linked shield system," Zex Toll said, "can you adapt it to our ships?" "Dr. Samantha Kelly is already working on it," Eliza replied. "Her new communication system should make it possible." Dr. Kelly was a brilliant scientist who had created a quantum communication network immune to Hollow One interference. She worked tirelessly in a makeshift lab, connecting Earth technology to Concorde systems. "The problem isn't the shields," she explained to the mixed team of human and alien engineers. "It's getting your ships to coordinate perfectly. Humans have trained for this for decades." Back on Earth, Jack Summers shared his discovery with Director Rodriguez and Alan Price. The evidence was clear now. Earth's own ambassador had worked with someone in the Concorde to orchestrate the severance. "I don't understand," Alan said. "Why would a human help cut off Earth from the rest of the galaxy?" "According to these records," Jack explained, Ambassador Wells believed humanity was developing too quickly, absorbing alien technology without understanding its consequences. He thought isolation would force us to develop on our own path. "He betrayed his own species," Daniel said, "but ended up making us stronger." "Should we tell President Morgan?" Ellen asked. "Not yet," Daniel decided. "Not until this battle is over. Right now, we need unity." The Hollow One fleet arrived at the edge of the Concorde system. Their ships moved in perfect formation, like a single organism with many parts. This was different from their previous attacks. More coordinated, more intelligent. "They're evolving," Zex Toll observed grimly. "So are we," Eliza replied. The battle began with a massive energy surge from the Hollow One fleet. Their combined weapons fire would have destroyed the front line of defenders instantly in the past. Instead, the linked shield network absorbed and redistributed the energy. President Morgan watched from the Concorde Command Center alongside High Counselor Trev Carr, the supreme leader of the Concorde. The tall, crystalline alien had lived for 3 centuries and had never seen anything like this battle. "Your people fight with remarkable courage," Trev Carr said. "We fight for survival," Frank replied. "Something we've had plenty of practice with." The battle raged for hours. Earth's quantum disruptors worked initially, but the Hollow Ones adapted quickly. Dr. Kelly responded by modifying the frequencies, staying 1 step ahead of the enemy. When the Hollow Ones broke through the outer defense line, Earth ships moved to fill the gap. Their captains had trained for this scenario in countless simulations back home. "They're protecting our worlds," Trev Carr said in wonder. "After everything we did." "That's what humans do," Frank said simply. As the battle reached its critical point, Dr. Kelly activated her final adaptation. The linked shield network suddenly expanded, connecting all allied ships in a vast energy web. When the Hollow Ones fired their main weapons, the energy was captured, channeled, and redirected back at them. The explosion lit up the system like a new star being born. When it faded, The Hollow One fleet was in disarray. For the first time in recorded history, they retreated in complete defeat. In the days that followed, High Counselor Drevkar formally welcomed Earth into the Concord, not as junior members, but as equals. The knowledge and technology humans had developed in isolation now spread throughout Concord space. Earth was no longer forgotten. The universe would remember humanity for a very long time to come.